With apologies for the same. So, this is the second chapter, 6th shloka. Pooja Mataji, please read this translation and purport both. Pooja Sharma. Pooja Sharma, you're there? Okay, Anuprabhu, please read the translation and purport both.
Translation. Thus being fixed, one must render service unto the super soul situated in one's own heart by his omnipotency, because he is the almighty personality of Godhead, eternal and unlimited. He is the ultimate goal of life, and by worshipping him, one can end the cause of the conditioned state of existence. Purport. As confirmed in Bhagavad-gītā 18.61, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Śrī Kṛṣṇa, is the all-pervading, omnipresent Supersoul. Therefore, one who is a yogi can worship only him because he is the substance and not illusion. Every living creature is engaging in the service of something else. A living being's constitutional position is to render service, but in the atmosphere of Maya illusion, or the conditional state of existence, the conditioned soul seeks the service of illusion. A conditioned soul works in the service of his temporary body, bodily relatives like the wife and children, and the necessary paraphernalia for maintaining the body and the body relations, such as the house, land, wealth, society, and country. But he does not know that all such renderings of service are totally illusory. As we have discussed many times before, this material world is itself an illusion, like a mirage in the desert. In the desert, there is an illusion of water, and the foolish animals become entrapped by such an illusion and run after water in the desert, although there is no water at all. But because there is no water in the desert, one does not conclude that there is no water at all. The intelligent person knows well that there is certainly water in the seas and oceans, but such vast reservoirs of water are far, far away from the desert. One should therefore search for water in the vicinity of seas and oceans and not in the desert. Every one of us is searching after real happiness in life, namely eternal life, eternal or unlimited knowledge, and unending blissful life. But foolish people who have no knowledge of the substance search after the reality of life in the illusion. This material body does not endure eternally, and everything in relation with this temporary body, such as the wife, children, society, and country, also changes along with the change of body. This is called samsara, or repetition of birth, death, old age, and disease. We would like to find a solution for all these problems of life, but we do not know the way. Herein it is suggested that anyone who wants to make an end to these miseries of life, namely repetition of birth, death, disease, and old age, must take to this process of worshiping the Supreme Lord and not others, as it is also ultimately suggested in Bhagavad-gītā 18.65. If we at all want to end the cause of our conditioned life, we must take to the worship of Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa, who is present in everyone's heart by his natural affection for all living beings, who are actually the part and parcels of the Lord. Bhagavad-gītā 18.61. The baby in the lap of his mother is naturally attached to the mother, and the mother is naturally attached to the child. But when the child grows up and becomes overwhelmed by circumstances, he gradually becomes detached from the mother. Although the mother always expects some sort of service from the grown-up child and is equally affectionate toward her child, even though the child is forgetful. Similarly, because we are all part and parcel of the Lord is always affectionate to us, and he always tries to get us back home, back to Godhead. But we, the conditioned souls, do not care for him and run instead after the illusory bodily connections. We must therefore extricate ourselves from all illusory connections of the world and seek reunion with the Lord, trying to render service unto him because he is the ultimate truth. Actually, we are hankering after him as a child seeks the mother. And to search out the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we need not go anywhere else, because the Lord is within our hearts. This does not suggest, however, that we should not go to the places of worship, namely the temples, churches, and mosques. Such holy places of worship are also occupied with the Lord, because the Lord is omnipresent. For the common man, These holy places are centers of learning about the science of God. When the temples are devoid of activities, the people in general become uninterested in such places, and consequently the mass of people gradually become godless, and a godless civilization is the result. As such a hellish civilization artificially increases the conditions of life, and existence becomes intolerable for everyone. The foolish leaders of a godless civilization try to devise various plans to bring about peace and prosperity in the godless world under a patent trademark of materialism. And because such attempts are illusory only, the people elect incompetent, blind leaders, one after the other, who are incapable of offering solutions. If we want at all to end this anomaly of a godless civilization, we must follow the principles of revealed scriptures, the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and follow the instructions of a person like Sri Shukadeva Goswami, who has no attraction for material gain.
Yeah, such a wonderful purport this is also. So, one's life should be, according to what text 4 and 5 is saying. And if one's heart is also pure, and if this material hankerings are there, then it cannot, a particular person cannot follow this lifestyle for a very long time. So following this lifestyle for a very long time means one's heart is pure enough to not hanker for better facilities. He's situated, that Supreme Lord, he is so is situated firmly that the Supreme Lord becomes manifest within his heart only. And, with such a person. So, then this yogi, he seeing the Paramatma form of the Lord, he becomes very joyful. Why? Because the Supreme Lord is situated in his heart only. And that is why he becomes joyful. And so somebody might ask, why isn't the Supreme Lord already situated into the living entity's heart as Paramatma only? But the difference is that currently, when I am meditating on the Lord, I don't realize that the Paramatma is there in my heart. When this particular person, he actually, when a particular person gives up all this material hankerings and he's following a very simple lifestyle, then the Supreme Lord, his heart becomes actually pure, and it becomes so pure that the Supreme Lord becomes manifested within this heart. So he can see the Supreme Lord within his heart. The only the difference is that right now I'm not able to see the Paramatma in my heart. But once my heart becomes pure of all the contamination and all the material hankerings and all the anartha nivrittis, then I can see the Paramatma face to face in my heart, and then I become joyful. So, then because this yogi, he is seeing the Paramatma form in his heart and he's becoming joyful, and he starts worshipping the super soul or the Paramatma. And then what is the result of such worship? Then this repeated birth and death, the cause of this samsara, is actually destroyed. And Srila Prabhupada, in the purport somewhere in between, he is addressing over here this samsara of repetition of birth, old age, and diseases. So it is completely destroyed. So he's addressing the impersonified over here, opposite of variety is no variety. So in the material world also you have material variety, but in the spiritual world we will have spiritual variety, and definitely the spiritual variety is far more superior than the material variety. And So over here we only know that, okay, material varieties, there are luxuries, there are cars, there are bungalows, and there are houses and all that we know. But we do not know only, we do not have an idea of the spiritual variety, and that is why we are in an illusion. We are thinking that this is only all in all for me. So once we know that about the spiritual variety, then definitely we will make our material life very simple, and then we can maximize our spiritual life also, and we will worship the Supreme Lord more intensely. So let's go to the seventh one, shloka. Okay, there is one question which somebody has asked me. Let me clear that first. Mataji, if I can add to Priyanka Mataji's question, even Hiranyakashipu was once a devotee of the Lord and was residing in the place where the Supreme Personality of God resided. But still he had to come back to the material world as he violated the saint's demand. But isn't this going against the answer you gave that those who will remain at the Supreme world will never descend back to this material world? Nice question. What you are saying is, but in this actually, when you say Jai Vijay, Jai Vijay are the eternal doorkeepers of the Supreme Lord. So when the Supreme Lord wants to enjoy some rasa, see there are five primary rasas and there are seven secondary rasas. So five primary rasas as Shantya ras, Dasya ras, Sakhya ras, Vatsalya ras, and Madhurya ras. And secondary rasas, there are seven. So one of these seven secondary rasas is Virya ras. Virya ras means if Krishna wants to have a fight with somebody, he cannot have a fight with some, very lean person, lean and thin person. He needs a very strong person so that he can enjoy that mushti prahar or that fist fight or that particular fight. So now when Krishna wants to fight, then who will it be? It will be with his own associates only, definitely, whom he can give a little, tough time. And that particular devotee gives a tough time to Krishna so that Krishna can enjoy Virya Ras. So all this was ordained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This whole pastime that was there, where the Kumaras were not allowed to enter the palace of in the personal palace of Lord Vishnu, and Jai Vijay halted them, and Srila Prabhupada writes in that particular purport that when the Lord wants to enjoy Virya Ras, that time actually he creates such a situation. And there are many lessons to be learned with that particular pastime also. That one of the other lessons to be learned is that since the Lord is the master of Jai and Vijay, so any offense that a servant does to somebody, then the Lord takes that offense personally to himself, that okay, these are my subordinates, these are my servants, and I'm very sorry that they have they have offended y'all, and the Supreme Lord had taken that offense on himself. So the curse given by the four Kumaras was again ordained by the Supreme Lord only, because he wanted to come. So another like follow-up question is, if the Lord sends us back to earth or we come down for the pleasure of the Lord, then we'll get liberated only by the Lord like Jai and Vijay, or get lost in the cycle. No, we are going back again. Why? Because the Lord has killed us. No, while we are dying, so if you see Hiranyakashipu also, he is dying on the lap of Lord Narsingadev, right? Or the Lord is personally killing him. So he's seeing the Lord, and seeing the Lord at the time of death means actually coming out of the cycle of birth and death. So definitely, uh, when the Lord sends his pure devotees down, or his associates down, then it is actually for the pleasure of the Lord only they are coming down, for sure. And it is been ordained by the Lord only that these associates have come down to make that pastime more relishable, to enhance that particular pastime. Otherwise, if you see, because the Kumaras had given this particular curse that for 3 lifetimes. So Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksh, Shishupal and Dantavakra, and Ravan and Kumbhakaran. Now Ravan gave such a tough time to Lord Ram. So, but ultimately he was killed. And we had seen in the Ramayana series that had given that uh, Ravan also actually took the Lord's name and he died. He didn't die like that only. So, of course, uh, these all are liberated only by the Lord, and they will not get this because they are coming down for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So, they will. So, these pastimes, where in the Bhagavatam, these are actually such wonderful pastimes, and there are such wonderful lessons that we learn from the instances of Ravana also, lessons we learned from the life of Ravana, lessons learned from the life of Hiranyakashipu, lessons learned from the life of Hiranyaksha also. There are so many lessons that we can learn from these lives of these demons also. How we should not be, because somewhere down the line, even in our this also there is a small demon hidden, and to the slightest provocation, then that demon will take its big form. So as I was just recently telling in the Bhagavad-gītā, okay, class, that in Delhi, what exactly happened? That particular person has stabbed 21 times. Imagine such a demonic, what do you say, act this was. And this has shaken the whole of the nation. A big protest is going on in Delhi for that particular person. So why people do behave? Because of these demonic tendencies only. And if we remain grounded to our spiritual roots, then we will not even think of harming an ant also. We'll have compassion for every living entity. And that is why we need to, again and again learn from these demons only, that how not to behave against the Supreme Personality of Godhead, how to behave for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. So the Supreme Lord is never harmful to anybody. The Supreme Lord has never ever taken the first step of harming anybody. If somebody is harmed, of course, in defense, he will fight. But the first step, the Supreme Lord never takes to harm anybody. In fact, Shishupal, 99 times, and he had given a vow to his aunt that 100 times I will forgive him, but 101 then I will slash him. And imagine the Lord's tolerance power. For Shishupal, 100 times he went on blaspheming, 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 and then the Lord had to definitely kill him. So so many lessons we can learn, that how we should not behave with the devotees and with the Supreme Lord in that manner. Okay, so we'll just go to the next shloka. 7th shloka. Kastam त्वनादृत्य पुनर्नुचिन्ता मृते पशुन् सती नाम कुर्यात् पश्यन् जन पतित वैतरण्य स्वकर्मजान् परिताप जुष्णाम्. Translation. Vrinda, please read the translation and purport both.
Yes. Translation. Who else but the gross materialist will neglect such transcendental thought and take to the non-permanent names only, seeing the mass of people fallen in the river of suffering as the consequence of acquiring the result of their own work? Purport. In the Vedas, it is said that persons who are attached to the demigods to the exclusion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are like the animals who follow the herdsman, even though they are taken to the slaughterhouse. The materialists, like animals, also do not know how they are being misdirected by neglecting the transcendental thought of the Supreme Person. No one can remain vacant of thought. It is said that an ideal brain is a devil's workshop because a person who cannot think in the right way must think of something which may be bring out disaster. The materialists are always worshipping some minor demigods, although this is condemned in the Bhagavad-gītā 7.20. As long as a person is illusioned by material grains, he petitions the respective demigods to draw some particular benefit, which is, after all, illusory and non permanent. The enlightened transcendentalist is not captivated by such illusory things. Therefore, he is always absorbed in the transcendental thought of the Supreme in different stages of realization, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. In these previous verse, it is suggested that one should think of the Supersoul, which is one step higher than the impersonal thought of Brahman, as it was suggested in the case of contemplating the Virat Rupa of the personality of Godhead. Intelligent persons who can see properly may look into the general conditions of the living entities who are wandering in the cycle of 84 lakh species of life, as well as in the different classes of human beings. It is said that there is an everlasting belt of water called the river Vaitarini at the entrance of the Plutonic planet of Yamaraja, who punishes sinners in different manners. After being subjected to sufferings, a sinner is awarded a particular species of life according to his deeds in the past. Such living entities as are punished by Yamaraja are seen in different varieties of conditioned life. Some of them are taken in heaven, and some of them are taken in hell. Some of them are brahmanas and some of them are miseries. But no
My,
one is
with my
misers. But no one is happy in this material world, and all of them are either class A, B, or C prisoners suffering because of their own deeds. The Lord is impartial to all circumstance of suffering of the living entities, but to one who takes shelter at his lotus feet, the Lord gives proper protection, and he takes such a living entity back home, back to God, back to himself. Hare Krishna.
yeah. So if you see, there is sattva guna is not there. Why sattva guna is not there with such people? Because of bad habits. So when you have some bad habits, then you do not rise to the level of sattva guna. You are in the mode of ignorance and passion only. So Shukdev Goswami, before continuing further, once more, he wants to make it sure, or doubly sure, you can say, that one does not reconsider the path of karma kanda. Because if you see from second shloka to this seventh shloka, actually there is from the second shloka, he's saying that he's actually rejecting the path of karma kanda. So now, when he's concluding this karma kanda section of rejection, he is doubly making sure of it that he does not again reconsider the path of karma kanda. So, promising swarga and other enjoyment. So, in this particular text over here, he's saying that who in this world would reject such a noble path, which is involving meditation on the beautiful form of the Supreme Lord within the heart, and accept this path of sense gratification, especially after seeing how people of this world are suffering because of engaging and endeavoring in sense gratification and falling into this hellish river. And he is, no less than an particular animal, whoever is actually taking up to sense gratification. So, mm, Shukdev Goswami is making very doubly sure that who else but the gross materialists will neglect such transcendental thought and take to the non-permanent names only. And they'll keep on suffering birth after birth into many lifetimes as such. So, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also is saying that this verse actually states the opposite. Para is referring to the Lord, and who accept those involved in this material life would, unsuitably respect bhakti and think of this material objects. So, seeing these people experiencing suffering from their own actions, and while they are sinking in the river of hell, who accept persons indulging in material life would disregard bhakti. So, which concentrates on the Lord and meditate instead on the material objects. So, what does a yogi do? He is meditating on the form of the Lord, the Paramatma form of the Lord. In the next subsequent shlokas, we'll see that how he is meditating on the super soul or the Paramatma. So let's see the next 8th shloka. Kechit dehantara hridayavakashe padesha matra purusham vasantam chaturbhujam kanjarathanga shankhe gadadharam dharanyas smaranti. So it is dharanaya smaranti. So now from here till the 12th shloka, there is a description of the super soul given, and a very wonderful description given of the super soul. Let's see, then I will conclude with this, okay? Anuprabhu, please read this translation and purport both.
Others conceive of the personality of Godhead residing within the body, in the region of the heart, and measuring only 8 inches, with 4 hands, carrying a lotus, a wheel of a chariot, a conch shell, and a club respectively. Purport: the all-pervading personality of Godhead resides as Paramatma in the heart of each and every living entity. The measurement of the localized personality of Godhead is estimated to expand from the ring finger to the end of the thumb, more or less 8 inches. The form of the Lord, described in this verse, with distribution of different symbols, beginning from the lower right hand, up and down to the lower left hand, with lotus, wheel of a chariot, conch shell, and club respectively, is called Janardana, or the plenary portion of the Lord who controls the general mass. There are many other forms of the Lord with varied situations of the symbols of lotus, conch shell, etc., and they are differently known as Purushottama, Achyuta, Narasimha, Trivikrama, Rishikesha, Keshava, Madhava, Anirudh, Pradyum, Sankarshan, Sridhar, Vasudev, Damodar, Janardhan, Narayana, Hari, Padmanabha, Vamana, Madhusudana, Govinda, Krishna, Vishnumurti, Adoksaja, and Upendra. These 24 forms of the localized personality of Godhead are worshipped in different parts of the planetary system, and in each system there is an incarnation of the Lord having a different Vaikuntha planet in the spiritual sky, which is called Paravyom. There are many other hundreds and scores of different forms of the Lord, and each and every one of them has a particular planet in the spiritual sky, of which this material sky is only a fragmental offshoot. The Lord exists as Purusha, or the male enjoyer, although there is no comparing to any male form in the material world. But all such forms are Advaita, non-different from one another, and each of them is eternally young. The young Lord with 4 hands is nicely decorated as described below.
Yeah. So actually, now the second topic comes that he is going to describe the Paramatma within the heart. Some yogis who are qualified to meditate on the Paramatma form of the Lord within the region of the heart, where this word is used, Pradesha Matram, is the distance between the ring finger and the thumb, that is 8 inches. And by contemplation, this Paramatma form of the Lord appears in the heart of a pure hearted yogi. So, if you see over here, when you say dharana, dharana means you are meditating on the Lord. So, dharana on the Paramatma is superior to dharana on the Virat Rupa. So, that is why, when he says his eyes, ears, mouth, and face is everywhere, in every atom. So, one who is bereft of Krishna is actually really suffering. Very much he is suffering a lot. So, in the subsequent shlokas, he will describe more about the form of the Lord, how the form. So, even when we are chanting, of course, when we are chanting, we have to, listen, we have to hear the sound vibration. So when Prabhupada says, listen, 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 listen means you are attentive to that particular person, whatever he is saying. Hearing means what? The difference between hearing and listening is this only, that when you're hearing, you're not hearing attentively. Okay, he's saying something, okay, you're just giving a nod or a ear. Okay, I'm hearing. So whatever you want to accept, you'll accept. What you don't want to accept, you don't accept. But when you say listen, then you are attentively, with rapt attention, you are listening to every syllable of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So then what are you? You are attentive to that particular person, because the name and the person are non-different. The very name of the Supreme Lord Krishna, he is the person. So you are attentive to that particular person, and you're not inattentive. Being inattentive is like a little, disregarding that particular person's importance. Okay, Krishna, you are not so important for me, all other things are very important. Thoughts about my office is more important. Thoughts about my children is more important. Thoughts about, investment is more important for me. So you don't regard that particular person, you don't respect that person. And why we don't listen the Mahamantra, there is one more reason for that. We don't listen because we don't give enough importance to Krishna in our life. The moment we start giving importance to Krishna in our life, then we will start respecting him. We'll start respecting him as a person. Okay, here is a person, I'm calling out to this particular person. And as soon as I'm calling out, he's there in front of me. Though with my imperfect senses, I'm not able to see him. But he's standing in front of me. So because he's standing in front of me and I cannot see, that doesn't mean that he does not exist. That faith we should have, that yes, when I am actually chanting the holy name of the Lord is perfectly present and he's a person. And I need to respect that respect. So a relationship with Krishna starts with respect. And then it actually gradually develops and it culminates into love. But if you don't have respect only, then it will not culminate into love. Right? So initially there has to be awe and reverence in that relationship, and then it will culminate closely into bhava and prema, or love and devotion. And then you keep on going near and near. But if we disrespect that particular person, how will he feel? So that's how we should take it up. So dear devotees, sorry, I extended 5 minutes more than our time. But we'll meet tomorrow again, and we'll start discussing from the 9th shloka onwards. These shlokas will go a little quick faster, but then again the 12th and the 13th shloka might take some more time for explanation. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, God
Jai.
ki jai, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Dhanapram.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.